Well, it has calmed down, but this area of London is still very much in lockdown, Andrea. You can see behind me a very large cordon area, this police tape here, keeping everyone well away from the scene. We're standing between 100 and 200 metres away from the Houses of Parliament where the car has crashed into the barriers. So you can see that police really are trying to move people out of the area, and that cordon has been getting increasingly bigger as the morning has been going on. Now, one of the reasons that's possibly been happening is the car is still in place where it hit the barrier outside Parliament, and police all have to have a look at that car and make sure things like explosive devices rather, are not attached to it. Of course, in these ram attacks before, we have seen explosive devices attached to the cars, and police want to make sure no one's in the vicinity if something should happen. But at this stage, we've got no indication as to whether or not there is anything attached to that car or whether or not there is any further danger. This is a really busy part of London, Andrea. It is where, of course, the politicians all gather at the Houses of Parliament. Now, they are on their summer holiday, so they weren't there, but it's a strong business district, also a very popular tourist destination. And standing at this cordon with me, many tourists walking past wondering what on earth is going on. But certainly the police presence is still very heavy. Many of those police officers are still armed, and every now and then we hear the sirens of police cars go past as they move, but we're still waiting on an update from police.
Meanwhile, they have detained, as we said, the male driver of the car, but they are still not sure if this incident is in any way related to terrorism. Do we know anything more about who this driver is and what could have been those motivations?
Well, Andrea, what we know is that the driver is a man, and that at about 7:30 in the morning local London time, he drove along the road leading to the Houses of Parliament. Some witnesses say he drove at speed along that road, and he's crashed into the steel and concrete bollards outside Parliament. Now, we know that at least 2 people were injured. Ambulance crews tell us they have treated 2 people, they've taken them to hospital, but that they're not in a life-threatening situation. Their injuries are not at this stage expected to turn out to be serious. There are witnesses who say one of those who was injured may have been a cyclist. The witnesses also say that the car was driving at speed, that many of them ducked down, but there wasn't any screaming or any shouting from the man who was driving the car. Rather, the officers who guard the Houses of Parliament very quickly got to that car, surrounded it, got to that man, took him away in handcuffs, and he's now being questioned. Police will now be trying to work out what exactly was this man's motive. Was it an accident or was it intentional? It could have been as simple as he fell asleep at the wheel, but it could have been something more sinister, and that's what police will be trying to work out. They'll also be trying to find out who this man is, looking into his background, looking into where he comes from, perhaps where he got his car. We know it's a silver small Ford, a hatchback car. We don't know too much else about it at this stage, or too much else about that man. But we do know that counter-terrorism police have been called in to investigate this particular incident. Now, that doesn't mean that they believe it's a terrorism incident. What they're doing here is taking precautions. They need to be sure it's not terrorism, so they'll want to rule that out first. So they now have the power to investigate a little more freely and a little more efficiently by bringing in the counter-terrorism police to overlook this particular incident. But let's keep in mind that this was an incident that's happened outside a building that is arguably the most heavily protected building in the UK, and that's, of course, why the counter-terrorism police have come in here, because this is a sensitive part of London.